Want to build a pose detection model that allows you to do this?
Then it goes a little something like this.
What's happening, guys? My name is Nicholas Renat, and in this video we're going to be going through how to build your very own model that allows you to detect poses using TensorFlow and Posenet. Let's take a deeper look as to what we're going to be going through. So first up, what is Posenet? Well, Posenet is a deep learning model that allows you to detect human poses. Now you're probably thinking, how on earth does this work? Well, Posenet works by detecting different joints. For example, it detects your shoulders, your wrists, your elbows, your hips, your knees, and your ankles. And from there, it's able to join those key points together to determine your different poses. For example, you saw me doing aerobics before, it was detecting each one of those joints within my body in order to work out my particular pose. Now, in terms of what we're going to be covering today, we're going to be installing Posenet in order to build a React application. We'll set up a real-time webcam feed and detect poses in real time, and it'll all be done encapsulated within a React app. Now, in terms of how it's going to work, we'll be creating that webcam feed, and basically from that webcam feed, we're going to be passing that feed to our TensorFlow model, making detections, and then we're going to be drawing our poses on top of our canvas in real time using the HTML canvas. Ready to get to it? Let's do it. Alrighty, so the first thing that we need to do in order to build our Posenet detector or our pose detector is set up our application. Now, in order to do that, we're going to be using the npx create React app command to create a React application. Now, in this case, all we need to do at the end of that command is pass through the name of the application. So in this case, we're going to call it Posenet, and then that's going to set up all of our initial dependencies that we need in order to get started. So let's go on ahead and do that. Perfect, so that's now all done, and you can see we're back at the command line. Now what we can do is actually go into that folder and open it up with our favorite code editor. Now I'm going to be using VS Code, but feel free to use whichever code editor you want. Now there's a bunch of stuff in here, so you can see that we've already got some node modules, so those are things that have already been installed. We've also got some stuff within our public folders, and we've also got a bunch of stuff within our source folders. Now we're mainly going to be working inside of the app.js file, but we'll also create another file later on with some utilities. Now there's a couple of steps that we're going to need to go through in order to build this app. So I've got these listed out here. And I'm just going to paste them in. So broadly, what we need to do is install our dependencies, import those dependencies. We then need to set up a webcam and the canvas, define some references to those. Then we're going to load Posenet and build a detect function to actually detect our different poses from our webcam. Then we're going to bring in some drawing utilities from TensorFlow and then use those to actually draw on our canvas. So let's go on ahead and first up install the dependencies that we're going to need in order to get started. So we're going to need three key dependencies. These are React-Webcam, Tensorflow.Js, as well as our Posenet model. Now, if you actually go through to the Tensorflow.Js website, there's a pose estimation model down here, and you can actually click that and go through to the Tensorflow.js/Posenet repo. And there's a whole bunch of steps on how to get this set up, but we're going to do a little bit of a crash course on doing that within our application. We're also going to grab some of these drawing utilities from this repo as well. That's going to help us later on. And in terms of React Webcam, there's a whole bunch of information on setting this up at this link as well. But I'll include links to all of this as well as a GitHub repo for this completed tutorial inside of the description. So let's go on ahead and install our dependencies first up. So I've just opened up a new terminal inside of VS Code. So now what we can go and do is install our dependencies. All right, so we've got three key dependencies there. So at TensorFlow TF.js, at TensorFlow models/Posenet, and then React Webcam. So if we just run that, it's going to install those dependencies.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Perfect, so that's now done. Now, if we go into our package.json file over here, you can see that we're now going to have our TensorFlow dependencies as well as our React Webcam dependencies. So that step is now done. Now what we can go and do is actually go on ahead and import our dependencies. So we'll make a few changes to what we've got here and we'll import our new dependencies. All right, so those are our 3 dependencies imported. So we've basically imported all of Tensorflow.Js, Posenet, and then React-Webcam, so we can mark that as done as well. Now what we're going to want to do is set up our webcam and canvas, but at the same time we probably actually want to start up our application so we can see it running in real time. Now before we do that, let's go on ahead and delete all of this stuff out of here, so everything between our header tags. So from here to here, we're going to delete all of this, and for now let's just replace it with hello world. And we're going to test out that our application is able to run. Now we're going to clear our terminal, and from here what we can do is use the npm run start command, and this is going to start up our application. Perfect, and you can see that our application's running, so we've got hello world appearing. Now what we want to do is actually go and replace this with our webcam component as well as our canvas. So our webcam is going to be a feed of our actual computer webcam, and our canvas is going to allow us to draw over that webcam. So basically, you saw in that initial video me doing my fitness and aerobics. Basically what we were doing is we were actually drawing a skeleton over our video. So that's what we're going to start setting up now. So let's go on ahead and do that. So again, we've imported our webcam component, so that's going to allow us to use our webcam, and then what we're going to do is add our canvas. All right, perfect. So that's all done and dusted. So what we've basically gone and done is we've set up 2 new components here. So we created a webcam and we passed through a whole bunch of styling. So again, for this particular app, we're just going to use inline styling, and we passed through the position, margin left, margin right, text align, the Z index to basically work out where the overlay is, as well as our width and our height. Now we've used those same styling components within our canvas application. So down here, you can see that we've got those exact same styling components down there. And our canvas, remember, is going to be the bit that allows us to draw over our webcam. So that's now all done. Now if we actually take a look at our app, you can see that our camera is working, and eventually we're going to be able to detect. Ignore the green screen. When we actually go to test this out, I'm going to get rid of that. So now that that's done, we can mark that little bit done as well. And when we set up our dependencies, we also brought in useRef from React. So this is going to allow us to set up references to our different components. So in this case, our webcam and our canvas. Now let's go on ahead and set up those references. So this is going to allow us to work with them later on. All right, perfect. So those are our references set up. So what we did is we created a reference to our webcam called webcam_ref, and we used the useRef lifecycle function or React hook to do that. And then we also set one up for our canvas ref as well. So you can see that we've got those referenced down here into our components. So we can mark that as done as well. Now what we're going to do is load our Posnet model. So up until now, it's sort of just been layout and formatting and installing stuff, but now is when we get onto our good stuff. So let's go on ahead, and we're initially going to write a function that allows us to load our Posnet model. So let's do that. Perfect, so that's done. So what we've basically done is define a new function called run Posnet, and we've made it asynchronous so we can wait until that model loads. And then we've used our Posnet model, which we imported from TensorFlow, and we've loaded that. Now, to our Posnet function, we can pass through a bunch of parameters. In this case, we've passed through our input resolution, so how big we want our model to actually, or the resolution of the images that we're going to be passing to our model, and then the scale. So basically, by setting this scale to a lower number, you're going to get a faster model, but you're going to get a less accurate model. So if we scale it by 50%, it's going to be a bit of a mix between speed and accuracy. So once we've set up our other functions, we're eventually going to come back into here and create a set interval function. And this is going to continuously run our Posnet model to allow us to create detections. But let's set up our next function first before we come back to that. So that's effectively our Posenet model done. So up until now, we've installed our dependencies, imported a bunch, set up our webcam and references, and we've loaded Posenet. Now what we're actually going to do is start making detections. So this is where it starts to get a little bit fun. So let's go on ahead and write that function to start detecting stuff. Okay, so let's take a little bit of a break there. So what we're actually doing is we're setting up a new function called detect, and again, this is going to be asynchronous. To this function, we're going to pass through our Posenet model that we just imported, and then initially what we're doing is we're just making sure that our webcam is up and ready. So this, although it looks like quite a long condition, we're just making sure that our webcam isn't undefined, it's not null, and that it's at a ready state, so it's actually receiving video. Then what we're doing is grabbing a bunch of video properties here. So first up, we're grabbing our video, then we're grabbing our video width, and then we're grabbing our video height. Next, what we're actually going to do is set our video width and then make detection. So let's do that. All right, perfect. So no compilation errors there. So what we've basically gone and then added is we've specified our video width. For some reason, whenever you're working with a video component, you need to force that width. So what we're doing is we're grabbing our webcam, the current video stream, and then we're setting our width to video width. And again, we're doing the same thing for height. And then what we're doing is the fun bit. So we're actually passing through our video to our Posenet, and we're using the estimate single pose method to actually go and make those detections. And that's stored within a variable called pose, and then what we can do is console log that out. So we'll effectively be able to see each and every detection. So right now we've got our webcam, but if we actually go in, right now it doesn't look like there's anything within our console. So what we can then go and do is start running this function. So this is actually going to allow us to start seeing our detections. And remember, up here where we set up our run Posenet model, we also were going to add our set interval. So let's go on ahead and add that now. This is going to basically run our detection every X seconds or so. So to that, we're just going to pass through another function, and we're going to run our detect function that we just set up here. And we're also going to pass through our neural network or our Posenet model that we just set up there, and we're going to run it every 100 milliseconds. So basically, this set interval function is just going to run a specific function on a specific basis. So by passing through our detect function, we're basically going to be running our detections every 100 milliseconds. So if we save that now, we should be able to see that being console logged out. So let's wait for our model to refresh. Oh, and we've actually got to run Posenet, so never mind. So let's just add that there, and then this should work now. And we've got a bit of an error there. So let's take a look at that quickly. Oh, so we've defined this as estimate single post. It should be estimate single pose. So let's save that, run it again. And you can see that we're starting to make detections here. So again, it's running pretty fast, but basically if we open this up, you can see that we're getting all of our key points, and each one of these key points represents a different part in our body. So you can see one part is nose, left eye, right shoulder, left elbow, so on and so forth. So let's just close that for now and stop our app. And then what we're going to do is we're now going to actually start making those drawings for our particular model. So up until now, what we've now gone and done is we've built our detect function. We now need to grab some drawing utilities from TensorFlow to allow us to actually draw on the canvas. So we can actually grab these from Tensorflow.Js models, and there's a whole bunch of drawing functions in here. But again, I'm going to link to these within the description below. So for now, we're just going to copy this. And we're really going to be using two methods within those. So we're going to be using the draw key points and draw skeletons methods. So let's create a new file to hold these utilities. And we're just going to call it utilities.js. Paste that in there. And then within our app.js file, we're just going to import the utilities that we're going to need. So let's go and import those. Perfect. So what we've gone and done is we've imported draw key points and draw skeleton from utilities. So if we actually go and take a look at those two functions, so they are right there. So there's one. So basically we're drawing each one of our key points onto our canvas, and then draw skeleton is just above it. So again, we're just linking those different points together. Now what we can go and do is actually go and draw those functions so we can see it rendered to our desktop. So let's go on ahead and do that. So we're going to put this just below our detect function. So again, we can probably minimize that for now and minimize our run Posenet model. We're going to create a new function here called draw canvas, and then we're basically going to call this function from within our detect function. So the whole flow is basically going to be we kick off run Posenet, we load our Posenet model, and then we set our interval, and our set interval is running our detect model every X seconds, and then our draw function is basically going to get called alongside every detection that we've got from that function there. So let's set up our draw canvas model, and this is basically going to be the last function that we need. All right, perfect. So that's our draw canvas function done. So basically to our draw canvas function, we pass through our detected poses, as well as our video, video width, video height, and then the canvas that we actually want to draw on. Then we actually get those different properties from there. So basically we grab our canvas, we then set the width and the height, and this is to ensure that our canvas width and height match the same width and height as our video. And then we're calling our draw key points and draw skeleton method. So these are basically going to then go and draw on our canvas. Now the last thing that we need to do is basically call our draw canvas method from our detect function, and this is basically going to make those detections. So let's do that. All right, so that's pretty much done. So basically we're now calling our draw canvas method, and again we're passing through our pose, our video width, our video height, and our canvas ref. Now there's one last thing that we need to do before we actually go and restart our app, and we just need to step into utilities, and right down here we're just going to comment our draw offset vectors. So this function here, and this is because there's a bit of a conflict between the way we installed and imported TF.js, but that's fine. We can just comment that out, and then we can run this. So if we use the npm.run start method or npm run start, and you can see that's successfully detecting our key point. So you can see there that it's detecting our face. But now if we take a step back, we should be able to do a whole pose detection and see what this looks like. All right, and you can see that working. So if we take a step further back and just move our camera, you can see that that's now detecting our entire pose, and it's detecting and pop. So again, this is working. So you can see that we're now detecting all of the key points. So it's still working, so it's also making those detections. And again, if we go and inspect our console, you can see that all of those are running there. And it also appears to be running pretty quick, so that's really, really good. And that brings us to the end of this video. So what we've basically done is we've now completed all of the steps. So we installed our dependencies, we imported them, we set up our webcam and our canvas components, we also defined references to those, we loaded our Posenet model, we detected those functions or wrote that detection function, and we used those drawing utilities from TensorFlow. And then last but not least, we actually went and used our draw functions to go and draw on the canvas, which you can see right there. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and tick that bell so you get notified of future videos. And let me know in the comments below what you're using Posenet for. Thanks again for tuning in. Peace.